Harvey Voices are an industry-leading voiceover agency. Agency director Emma set up Harvey Voices in 2006 with a simple goal to provide talented actors a good home to allow their voiceover career to flourish while providing a friendly, efficient service to their clients. Hello Emma, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for coming on. This week on The Essentials, we are discussing voiceover agents. This was an episode Christian and I have wanted to do since day dot, and the lovely Emma from Harvey Voices has come on to talk to us today, which is so exciting. And we always start every episode of The Essentials with a sort of definition question to really settle on exactly what we're talking about. So I'd love to ask you, Emma, what is a voiceover agent?
I hope I get this right. A voiceover agent would be an agent who specializes in the realm of voiceovers. So that might cover anything from animation, video games, audiobooks, commercials, even like telephone messaging systems and stuff everyone hates.
Oh, yeah.
ADR, additional dialogue recordings, just about everything on the commercial side of voiceover to do with using your voice, we look after.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And is that the case? Because in terms of commercial side, as you specified there, that a lot of the time, an actor's acting agent is generally the person that puts them up for audio dramas. Is that the case, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, no, that's right. Audio drama is something I don't do much of at all. Maybe sometimes I've had people that aren't represented by anybody else and might do a radio play, but it's really not what we do. And
Mm.
I'm never really casting for anything like that. It's always the acting agent.
Absolutely. And I'd love to ask the differences in the casting process for a voiceover project, a commercial voiceover project, as opposed to the traditional process we'd see in a stage or squeen. That was great.
We,
Stage or
well,
squeen audition process.
um, well, I would probably say a lot of them are a lot faster. It can be really quick, especially if it's a radio ad or, they've already shot the commercial and everything's ready to go. And they really quickly want voiceovers. So I might get a brief in at 10 a.m. Cast from Reels, or someone does a really quick self tape, and they might be in the studio or in a home studio now within a couple of hours, and it might play out the next day. So it's really fast, which I kind of love.
Mm.
But then there's also quite a similar, more of a dramatic style thing, like maybe animation or video games. You go through a similar process to not envision so much, but a similar time frame, I think, and a similar process to the other side of things.
Do you think getting VO work when you're unrepresented is harder than getting acting work when you don't have an agent? And if so, why is that?
Possibly, yes, probably. I would not like to think so, but I would think it would help or be beneficial to have an agent. And there's lots of benefits to having an agent. And I think you would have hopefully access to a greater volume of work, or maybe a better quality of work, bigger briefs, more exciting jobs. I think, there is a lot of voiceover directories or pay to play websites where you might subscribe and audition that way if you're unrepresented. I really don't know much of that side of things because I'm an agent, but I always tend, if anyone's passed anything they've had in through that kind of a source, it's usually the lower end of the scale, maybe corporate, or not that there's anything wrong with corporate, but it's not maybe so much of the premium side of things. And I would say having a good agent, you might have better access to that kind of work. Doesn't mean to say the volume of work that you would get booked for is any better, but you have access to it, I think.
Yeah. And as you
Makes
said
sense?
there, yes, absolutely. As you said there, you are an agent, but you weren't always an agent. You had quite an interesting journey leading up to founding Harvey Voices in 2006, and it says it on your website that you worked in costume design and then advertising. What motivated you to set up Harvey Voices and become a voiceover agent?
Well, I was terrible at costume. Couldn't have done that, no matter how much I loved it. I think they still, or they were, for years after I left Central School of Speech and Drama, because that's where I trained, I think they were teaching people how not to do costume by using bits of my work. I know
Oh
that for a fact.
Lord, no.
That wasn't really an option. I'm a much better agent, I would think. So yeah, I left. I did quite well actually with the costume thing. I did a couple of years freelancing, and then money, necessity of paying your bills and stuff. I ended up getting an office job, which evolved. And then I worked at radio advertising bureaus, so I was working with radio producers and radio creatives, and eventually decided to do radio production, which then led on to casting. And then I got the opportunity. There was a lady who ran another voiceover agency was leaving. She was moving to Spain, so it all kind of just clicked together at the same time. It was like it happened quite quickly over a few weeks, and then all of a sudden I just had the opportunity to set up a little agency, and I didn't really expect it to grow as quick as it did, but I'm very happy that it did.
That's really fascinating
Did
that
that answer your question?
yeah, that you sort of inherited that space that you were able to make your own. Were there any things that you learned in your work with the radio producers that really were there any instances or aspects of the subject that really made you, try not to sound dramatic, sort of fall in love with that side of the industry? Go, yeah, voiceover is where I want to be. For whatever reason, I love this. I want to do this.
Sort of. I mean, because I come through Central and I'd worked with all the actors on quite a lot of shows anyway, I really enjoyed working with actors. And
Mm.
whilst I was trying to find my feet and realizing that costume wasn't going to be a viable option,
Yeah.
um, I did actually apply to lots and lots of agents trying to get in a foot in the door, and no one would have me.
Oh.
So then I went off around the houses to into the production and stuff. So yeah, by running these training courses and working with the creatives, there was some handy stuff of maybe what not to do or what to expect, and mostly with radio, to be honest, because that's what the RAB was all about in the Aerial Awards. So a little bit, not a lot.
I was just going to ask about. I know that when you have a voice reel, more often than not, you send that off, they hear it, and then you get cast from that. Do you think that, with that said, voice reels are essential to actually getting VO work? And what makes a good reel?
Oh, definitely. I can't contemplate taking on anyone really without having listened to the reels, and because people, the way people talk and your reel sounds completely different, and
Yeah.
so voiceovers is still cast from reels, and you can send a reel off, and whether you have to do a test or you go in straight away to do the job. That's really all the calling cards we've had, because most of the time they're not that interested in your IMDb profile. They just want the right voice for the job. So if you don't have a good reel, it's really hard for me to sell you in. Well, impossible, I would say. So, uh,
Yeah.
and for differences of reels or what makes a good reel, everyone really wants to do different types of voiceover work. So if you're really into doing audiobooks, then read an audiobook that you love and make sure that the reel is the best of that kind of calling card for that specific type of work. Um, I look for good commercial reels that show off tone and sort of light and shade of delivery, rather more than a heap of accents. I'm really just looking how your versatile your own natural voice is and how many places that could be slotted into over different genres.
Yeah, I'd love to ask you about to quickly touch on a sort of double header. They're completely unrelated, so we'll do one and then I'll say another. I've got a tendency to ask about three questions at once that really annoy people, so I will not do that. You mentioned accents there as not necessarily what you need. Is that because most of the time these days, especially with voiceover being, a lot of the time done in home studios now, where they don't need someone to be local to a London studio, they're always going to go for the legit accent. So if you are from Scotland, you stick to your Scottish voice, you will get those Scottish parts. And then if you sound RP like myself, stick to that voice and find the work that fits you rather than trying to adapt yourself to different jobs.
Yeah, 99% of the time I would say that's correct. I mean, versatility is brilliant, and if you can do a heap of accents and character voices, great. But it is just sticking to who you are and using your voice the best. There's no point shoehorning your voice into Northern Irish, because they will just cast somebody from Northern Ireland or from Cork, or as specific as they
Mm.
need to get. So it's great that you can do loads of accents, and sometimes it comes in handy. Maybe on a radio ad, they've got 10 different people, characters on a radio ad. They might want you to do 2 or 3 of them. Great, you'll have a chance at doing an accent, but most of the time you're just going to be booked for your voice.
Yeah, I imagine as well that if you're in a recording booth with a microphone right in front of your face or in your home studio, it's so much more exposing to your accent as well. Like, it can't just be a pretty good Yorkshire accent. It would have to be spot on. Otherwise, anyone would be able to tell it's not legit. I'd love to quickly ask you on another question on voice reels. We covered what makes a good one. I'd love to know if there are any, because I'm sure you listen to so many when actors submit their reels to you. Are there any common mistakes or pitfalls people fall in when making a reel, especially, I presume, when they make their own?
Well, terrible accents.
Yeah.
Someone sent me going, I'm great at all these accents, and actually they hardly nailed any of them. That would really put me off, because you need an ear, and you need to know what you sound great at. And a lot of people think they're much better at doing accents than they actually are. And I'm Scottish, and I can spot a non-Scottish accent a mile off, so I'm overly sensitive to that. But you need good accents. And what else? Maybe too long, maybe a bit too dull, or bringing brands in that maybe haven't been around for 20 years. Not that it has to be topical, but you don't really want to be going on about a brand that was really big 20 years ago and maybe gone bust or something. You want to keep your reels really entertaining and engaging and dynamic, and lots of sparkle, really, when appropriate. And try and engage, really, is the main aim of the game, and you don't have long to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Sorry,
ask. Oh, no, I'm just going to butt in one time.
Go on
Is
then.
that with one more question? Well, I think we're going to have 2 on reels, but is the idea that you can go get your audio reels done for you professionally. And we've spoken to Fran Chance from Real Recordings on our episode on voice reels, and we're quite biased in favor of going to see an individual, especially herself. And I know that you two are aware of each other too, and so this is probably a pretty foregone conclusion in terms of the answer, but would you recommend people go and get a voice reel commercially done, because actors are quite notoriously tight? I think we can all acknowledge that. So is it of real benefit to go out and get your reel properly recorded?
Yes, I would say so, because then if you've gone to someone lovely like Fran, you get her experience, her ear. She'll help you develop the scripts that you want, and she'll be able to give you instant feedback and maybe point out a different choice or a different way of delivering a line that will just lift it and make it more professional sounding. Um, so someone like Fran is great, and there's other people that might specialize more in video game reels, like Martin at Sonic Pond, to give him a shout out. He's brilliant. Um, and he's a real gamer, and he's an actor, and he produces fantastic video game reels, I think, and people have done really well off the back of them. And there's only a few people that I've worked over 15 years that can self-produce and direct their own reels to a standard that's really good enough, that works, that will pull the work in. Maybe 2 or 3 that are really good. Everyone else pretty much needs direction and help and assistance, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, you have to pay a little bit of money, I guess, but it's a really worthwhile investment, because you're competing against so many other people, all for the same roles. So you want the best chance. And that would be through using someone like Fran or Martin or any of the others that are brilliant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Both myself and Matt went to Fran, and just her selection of pieces to suit your voice as well, so valuable.
Yeah, it
And it
really
was my
helps.
first time in a studio as well when I was with her, and herself and the lovely sound engineer on the day made me feel so comfortable in recording it. And as you said, Emma spotted things in my voice that I wasn't even aware I was doing to
Mm-hmm.
alter ever so slightly. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and just that slight tweak, slight change can really lift it. And all of a sudden, you've got a banging voiceover reel that's going to grab you a few nice campaigns, and it's invaluable. So spend a little bit wisely with the right person that you're really comfortable with, and hopefully reap the rewards. Really.
For sure. Just sticking with reels, so you can get a commercial reel or an audio drama reel. Would you recommend one over the other? And should every VO actor have both, or just stick with one?
Or a video
Uh,
game reel, as you said there.
yeah, I'm never really looking for audio drama. Audio books I like to hear now, because that's a completely different skill set, and it's nice to have that if they want to do voice audio book. Commercial reel, definitely a nice narrative or documentary piece. There's a used to be quite voiceover was very selly and big and had like very obvious patterns in how people spoke, but it's really changed over the last few years, and now there's a lot more emphasis on conversational, natural, maybe even whimsical spoken word poetry. Although that range of stuff is great to hear in a reel. So if you can squish that into your commercial reel as well, or your narrative, that would be lovely. And if you're really into doing video games, that's again completely different skill set. It's quite a dramatic role, usually under stressful situations. So
Mm.
you might be shooting or being shot at, or whatever the reel might come up with. But that's great. Animation as well, different styles. Whatever you want to do and whatever you think lends itself best to your voice, and get your reel done for that.
Yeah. You sort of answered my next question in that answer by talking about how, there's a bigger call out for different sounding voices these days. And because there's a sort of a false narrative, I think, amongst some people before they've even tried voiceover that, oh, I don't have an incredible sounding voice. I don't sound like that dude that does all the cinema trailers, or I don't sound like I could sell M&S chocolate. No one's ever going to hire me for voiceover. Do you need an incredible sounding voice to get into VO, or can anyone make the case to get work with their voice?
No, most voiceovers are naturalistic, and everyone's cast from every walk of life, and it's even more diverse than it's ever been with regards to gender, race, accent, um, and you don't need to have like I've got Red Pepper on the books, who's Mr. Voiceover trailer, huge deep voice. You don't have to have that at all. He's done brilliantly because his voice is amazing, but most people, they just you want someone to play a soldier in a video game, or a pirate, or just sound like the bloke down the pub in a commercial. So you just need to find your own voice and accentuate it in a way that's very attractive to agents and people, casting directors, producers.
Yeah. There you go, Matt. Man
Re-
down the pub, just for you.
Ready to go. You know me. Strawberry daiquiri.
Oh, well. Less about that. Emma, you say that you want to provide talented actors with a home for their voice. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean? I think I mean, well, home is supposed to be a safe space, and it's somewhere that you are comfortable with, and maybe you're loved and nurtured, not to get too gushy, but just a safe, welcoming, friendly place to nurture talent and to try and advise and grow someone's career as best I can within this scope and within the realm that I kind of work over. So that's all it is, really.
I'd love to ask about submissions from actors to try and get representation. And at the time of recording the podcast, your books are closed at the moment in time. And actors, including ourselves, we do love you, but please respect when an agent says their books are closed, because it's not going to do you any favors emailing now. But we'd love to ask you, Emma, what makes a good submission to you, an agent, whether that's the email, the subject line of the email, the timing it's sent, the contents, the reel, all those bits and bobs.
Okay. I get about 10 to 20 a day, and
Yeah.
that's with me saying everywhere everywhere that the books are closed, and
Oh,
so many calls. And it's tough because I would love to represent more and more people, but I really do need to just look after people in the books. So, what would make a good one? Don't send me something on a Sunday uh, with 89 files that I didn't ask for. Don't name the email with another voiceover name. I get that a lot. People just sort of
what, with a
obviously
different
copy and
agent?
paste. Yeah, I get that a lot. Just
Oh,
or dear sirs, or someone who's clearly not even looked at who runs the agency, never mind having a look to see if they think they could fit with the agency, or you know uh, that kind of thing really is slightly irritating because it takes up a huge amount of my time
yeah,
to even just to say no. I always try and respond, or Louise, who works for me, always tries to respond, and we don't, because I respect that everyone's just trying to get on and doing their best, but at the same time it's really difficult for me to manage the swamping of emails and phone calls I get daily requesting representations. So just go easy on me. That's what I
yeah.
would.
I think this type of email incident has come up in multiple podcasts that we've recorded with people, where they're agents, casting directors, or whatever, where people say, "Yeah, the subject line is a different agent," or it just says "Dear whoever." And I think we're on a sort of two-man mission now to improve emailing skills across the industry, because it's not difficult. I know occasionally everyone makes a mistake where you accidentally click the send button when you are writing a new email or something
I
like
would.
that. That does happen, but very rarely. I think on the whole, people just need to do better with that, because it's
Yeah.
a learnable skill and it's not a difficult one. So hopefully you'll get some better emails in the future. That would be lovely. Um, I'd like to quickly ask you that actors are told sometimes to invite agents to shows that they're in to consider them for representation. And I know it's always lovely to get invited to the theatre, but is this the case for voiceover agents as well? Or is your sort of standard voice reel submission with an email to the right agent the main and only way to get representation for as a VO artist?
I've been to a few showcases, especially the ones at Central. 'Cause, I like popping back there and seeing what's going on. But I would say that really the only way to be represented would be to send me an email, or maybe it's a secret, but maybe get someone on the books that to give me a nudge, and then I
Mm.
might perk up and realize when the emails come in with the reel. And it's nice that someone knows somebody on the books. It's already kind of a recommendation, so that's nice if you can. But yeah, show reels for me, not showcases for me, not so much. Although I will from time to time have a look, but then I'd still have to ask for professional reels to listen to make a proper decision.
Emma, I know some actors who aren't good sight readers or maybe have dyslexia might find the idea of VO work very intimidating because of the speed of it. What advice would you be able to give them to dispel those worries? Because it does happen so quickly, doesn't it? You can have the send your tape across one day and then you could be in the studio 2 days later.
Well, it doesn't always have to happen like that. And
Hmm.
if someone's got a particular issue or says, I need extra prep time, then no problem. We'll manage the extra prep time somehow. You might not be the person to call in on the same day within an hour to sort it. That's fine. You'll be good for something else and we'll give you the prep time. And I've looked after a few people with dyslexia, and again, we tell the client, we manage their expectations. We maybe allow for an extra half hour or something for the session. And also with dyslexics, yellow paper, I think, is a favorite. If the script is printed on yellow paper, it's much easier, or it might differ to who the dyslexic person is. But if you have your script printed on colored paper of your choice, it really helps. And I've got a dyslexic actress who does audiobooks now, and as long as she's got it on the yellow paper, it really helps her out and things go a lot smoother.
Oh, that's really good to know that that's available to people.
Yeah, we'll
Well,
try and work with, sight reading's not everyone's favorite thing in the world, but you
No.
can learn. It's a learnable skill, and we'll just take a note of it and try and give you a bit extra time where we can.
That's great. And what tips would you, in general, would you give to VO artists off to do their first job, or who are very early in their career, whether with their literal technique, prep, mentality, that sort of thing?
Always try and get the script if you can. Sometimes it's not possible until you get to the studio, but get to the studio a little bit early, or make sure you're in the studio vicinity in lots of time. Go and grab a water. I wouldn't recommend being highly caffeinated or drunk. Always pick
Oh,
I've had that before. I've had someone turn up a bit worse for wear. Um, so yeah, maybe don't wear jangly jewelry. Don't wear your best crisp, crunchy designer jacket with 23 zips on it. Just think about noise that you might make accidentally in the studio. So no jewelry, quiet clothes. Don't have any chocolate or dairy. And do vocal warm ups before you leave the house. Open your lungs up, especially if it's a morning VO and you're, a bit groggy. Before you leave the house, really do some vocal warm ups, get those lungs working, and just do as much logical prep like that you can, so that you can make yourself feel ready as you can. So when you get there, you're calm and prepared and just ready to walk into the studio and deliver the perfect voiceover.
Yeah, I mean, turning up drunk with a very zippy jacket is just, oh man, I can't imagine anything worse. Oh Lord. I'd love to ask, as you say, turning up to a studio is a thing. You go out and you do a voiceover, a job at a studio. But in the past year, of course, and then I think going forward, the idea of a home studio, a home setup of some sort, is going to be much more important. Is that the case? And do you think you also have to basically break the bank to get a good enough sound quality, or are there ways to do it on a bit more of a budget that would still get used professionally?
Okay, so it's definitely been a benefit to people who've got great high spec home studios already set up at home. Obviously, it's the last year it's been invaluable, and we've managed to do a lot of voiceover work that way. Um, there are some people in the books who have continued doing national TV ads by being sent equipment. The agency who's booked them has arranged for the sound studio to send them equipment out to the house, and they've built their own makeshift sofa den, duvet den, pillow den, and got in there with some high quality mics, and they've not had to pay for anything.
That's
So that's
brilliant.
worked. That's worked a treat. Um, and I think if you're really serious about voiceovers and you want to start spending a little bit of money and stuff, there's lots of advice online. There's lots of companies that will help and guide you. Don't think you need to spend thousands and thousands until it might be really worth your while. Um, a good USB mic with a pop shield and some sort of soundproofing. I'm not actually brilliantly technical on the sound type thing, but there are lots of people who are and who can help. And I would say, a bit like the reels, spend as much as you comfortably can. Don't make yourself into a heap of debt over it, and just take it step by step. You can always add a bit more to your sound studio as you go, and the more that you work. But we'll find a way around it. I've found studios for people all the way throughout lockdowns, and I've kept everybody working. And somehow there's a solution somewhere getting somebody some equipment. So it's not essential, but it can be beneficial.
Yeah, I think no one can accuse us individuals in this industry for not being adaptable at times. I think we're very adaptable in the way we work. It's fantastic to see you overcoming those obstacles, and the idea of getting lovely fresh equipment sent to you to record an ad at home. That's a very cushy job. I love the sound of that. Um, I'd love to. You sort of briefly mentioned there that there are people that you can learn from online, and there are resources available. Um, do you find yourself recommending any actors on your books, ways to keep them in shape for voiceover work, so things they can practice at home, maybe specific books or courses, or warm-ups or any of the, like, I know a lot of it's self-explanatory, you know, keep your voice in good condition, do your vocal warm-ups and practice on your mic, but is there anything else you can add that you know that either people that are on your books or actors that are professional voiceover artists should do, or those that are considering becoming professional voiceover artists should do?
Hmm. There's nothing, nothing really that I recommend on a daily basis. I mean, if you're, work on whatever you're least confident in. So if it's the sight reading part, keep practicing that. Or if you do have a little home studio, send me new little bits of reels or a little monologue. Or I've just someone sent me a beautiful poetry read the other day, and it's so lovely. And it happened that a brief came in, and I sent it in saying this is great, and the casting director absolutely loved it. And it's a huge campaign, and fingers crossed that just because he just happened to record this beautiful bit of poetry for me, he might, you know, secure the deal with a big ad campaign, which would be fire.
Fantastic.
So just keep working at it. It's a skill, and it's evolving, and I'm always interested to hear um, new reels or new materials from people on the books, because it's great for a bit of a refresh if it needs it, or I can put it online somewhere and say, hey, this person's got this new character reel, check it out. And you never know. So I would say that. And there are lots of places online, lots of companies that do kickstart voiceover stuff and advice and how to get into it. And there is an advice page on my website as well. If you go in
Yes.
FAQs and it's becoming a voice, you'll find our advice page on there. So that's a good place to start as well.
Yeah, I was prepping we do prep sheets for everyone that we interview. So we write down a long list of lovely questions, and in the process of doing that, we obviously do our research. And going on your website, I saw that FAQ page, and it is so beautifully written and in depth. So anyone that's looking for basic FAQ voiceover advice, go straight to the Harvey Voices page on that one. It also did give me a little bit of a fit, going, oh no, all the questions I want to ask are already answered here, so I've got to come up with some new ones. But definitely head over to that page right now, actors. It's fantastic.
Good. I'm glad someone likes it.
Emmy, you're just talking about sometimes things need refreshing. Uh, I know like actors need new headshots sort of every year or new show reels. How often do VO artists get new voice reels?
It might just really depend on, are their current reels working for them. So maybe it's apparent that no matter what I've put you up for, because it is so competitive, that you might get down to the last two or three, but there's something just not quite clicking. It can be luck as well, but if over a long period of time you haven't gotten anywhere, then I would say let's have a big refresh. Let's have a rethink. Is there something we're missing? What can we add that would help, basically? Because we need to try and figure that out. There was another part to your question. I can't remember it.
Neither can I. I asked how often people should change their, maybe just their material. Do you think it's like it could be a tonality thing, or it could be the material isn't working for them?
Yeah, I mean, stuff can just start to sound dated because
Yeah.
it's past its sell by date, really. And fashions for voiceovers go in and out. And also, someone's voice might really change. You know, if you've been smoking 40 a day for 3 years, you're probably going to sound slightly grittier or have a bit more gravitas than you did 3 years ago. So, if you're now 50 and you've still got voiceovers that you recorded in your late 30s or something, it's probably time for a refresh. And let's because we're going to go after different types of work for you. Let's let's do it and again.
And then presumably as well, if you are doing well, you'll be adding the material that you've recorded, as long as you've got the copyright ability to do so, to your reel. Or you would, if you couldn't do that, presumably if you're looking at re-recording a reel, you'd re-record it along the lines of the jobs that you seem to be booking. Is that the
Yeah,
case?
yeah, definitely. As you go, and the more stuff we get, you can always ask for copies. Or sometimes it's not always possible, but we definitely do add real life stuff in amongst the the mock reels or the voiceover reels that we've got on the website. Yeah, so it's evolving. Everything evolves, everything changes from year to year, from month to month, and it's just kind of keeping on top of it. And if it's not working out, let's try something else.
Yeah. I'd love to quickly ask you as well on your InVision department at Harvey Voices, your acting department, which is run by Theo George. When and why did you set up an InVision acting department? Where did that come from?
Well, I've always looked after a few people in the books that I've never had acting agents. So, like, I've always had Red Pepper since day one, and he's had no other agent. So he's occasionally booked in Vision commercials and guest appearances and all that kind of thing. And then I had the opportunity to work with Theo. He was up for it at the right time.
Hmm.
So we just thought it's a nice addition. I think some acting agents have now added on voiceover departments, especially in the last year, I think, because it's handy. It's another string to your revenue, and it's new skills for us and new contacts and stuff. So it's just been fun to do, although I didn't do a lot during COVID lockdown. So I'm my lucky stars. I did voiceovers primarily.
Yeah, I've noticed lots of agencies adding video work on to diversify.
Yeah.
Just want to ask about your plans for both yourself and Harvey Voices in the future.
Maybe I'd do a podcast. I've quite enjoyed this.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
To just continue, I'd like to grow the management side of things because it is quite new. It was only 2019 that I set up, and it did stall a little bit because of the whole COVID lockdown restrictions, which is understandable. So, pushing on with that and just getting better and better with the voiceover side of things. I've been doing it 15 years, and it doesn't seem like 5, and there's still lots of things we can do better and stuff to look forward to. So not a huge change, just more of the same really, but better.
I think that's a good motto to sort of end on, isn't it? Is more of the same but better, and the idea that we are always learning, always improving. I think that's what we can all do. And as you said, Emma, you've seemed to have quite enjoyed your time speaking to us, and we have loved speaking to you. It's been a real pleasure. We've learnt a lot, so thank you so much, and we'll let you go away and have a lovely rest of your evening. So thank you for coming on.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned something.
We look forward to having you back in room